Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Harihi Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tat Sat.
Okay, kindly mute your microphone. So we had done the basic ucharanam of the sloka number 38. Yo mang pasyati sarvatra sarvang cha mai pasyati tasyaham na pranashyami cha me na pranashyati. And before that, we had done, this is actually a kind of a follow-up of the previous verse, and we know he has already given us an indication that these verses 29, 30, and 31st, these three are kind of interconnected. Sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. And we had a long discussion following Madhusudan Saraswati that there are two categories of sadhakas, aspirants, who are able to have that Atma Sakshatkara. One are the ardent practitioners of the yogic sciences, where they do Chitta Nirodha. And the other category of people are also doing the same result of Atma Sakshatkara by sort of overcoming and distinguishing the Atma Vastu from the individual minds that all of us have. That pure consciousness, that ultimate truth, which is the unifying reality which permeates and pervades everything, being able to see that as all of us, and the names and forms as fallacious, we can also have Atma Sakshatkara. So there were two sentences. I just wanted to repeat it for clarification. Chitta nasyasya sakshinaha sakasad tad upadhibhuta chittasya pruthak karnat tad adarshanasya tasya upaya dvayam. So chitta nasyasya. So he's saying that two categories of people. There are some people who see all the realities that we see around us as fundamentally a misrepresentation or a twisted representation or a projection of the Brahmavastu or the Atmavastu, which is appearing as multiples, as different things. One example could be that you have one lamp and you have 1,000 mirrors all around, and then you see that mirror reflecting in hundreds and hundreds of mirrors. And if you go to that room where there are mirrors fixed on different walls, if it's a hexagonal shape, you will see multiple lamps. One lamp within, there will be another mirror, then behind that you'll see another. Depending on how you twist your body and how you change your position, you will see millions of lamps in that house, but there's just one lamp. Now, the people who see all these individual lamps as illusory, they are able to recognize, and that Atma Sakyatkara is comparable to recognizing one lamp. The other category of people, just imagine, who actually accept this prapancha, this individual chitta we have, which for a strong Vedanti or a Sankaravadi is actually delusional. This is a superimposition. Like a crystal looks like a red stone because that crystal is kept on a red pitambri or red silk sari. It looks red. Then you put it on a green silk sari, it looks green. This greenness of the stone is an illusion for a Advaita Vedanti of the Shankara brand. On the other hand, there are other people who accept the samsara as phenomenal but real, because they are also creation of the God, and therefore they cannot be illusory. So the Vaishnava Parampara, mostly Madhva and Sangha, even Ramanujacharya, they all accept this creation as real. At the same time, they also accept unity. Ramanujacharya. Madhvacharya, of course, is a dualist. So also the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all who talk about Achintya Veda Veda, they accept duality. They don't have a problem. Now, because they accept duality, the samsara for them also is true. Then how will you get Ishwar Prakti? Once you have accepted this whole universe is real, then you have to prevent these universe from affecting your concentration. And therefore you have to do Chitta Nirodha. That is one technique. They say he's saying that these are one category of people do chitta nirodha for atma sakshatkara. The other category of people, what they do, that is the first category is asampragyanta samadhi. They will do serious samadhi and they'll stop the mind from being active. And then when the mind is closed from all sides, in that consciousness, what blossoms, what appears in the light of the self. The other category of people, they look at everything, they don't get angry, they don't laugh and accept that is real, but they say there is some analytical work to be done. We need to analyze it and to figure out whether what we see is 100% true or false. They see all this as imagined in a superior reality which is not immediately evident to our naked eyes. Like, for example, there is a word now which is coming up, it's called dark matter. We don't know what it is. The physicists are talking about it. We haven't seen it. And they're saying that 90% of what we have, or 99% of the reality, is actually dark matter. Is solid or liquid or what, or plasma or what. They're not being able to define, but they're saying that what actually is pervading all over this whole universe is dark matter. They're kind of thinking in a way which now makes sense to us, because we in India have been talking about that sarvavyapi atma swarupa, which is everywhere, but it's not immediately available to the eyes. The way, for example, a red stone, the quality of a red stone is imagined in a crystal which doesn't have any color because it's kept on a red sari. Similarly, because of ignorance or avidya, we see this world as full of men and women. There's politics, there's economy, there's nature, there's this, there's that. But ultimately, fundamentally, these are projections. Very hard to accept for a normal, rational mind. Unless and until you go deeper and deeper, then you will realize what happens. I mean, they say that all this will again, what happens to the black hole? We might see this whole universe is real, but in the black hole, what? There's no mass, nothing, whatever goes vanishes in it. And physicists are saying this, so we cannot dismiss it. What is that? If that is one Bija Rupa, that is why Laya Avastha, where everything goes and vanishes, then that is one reality that we are reading about. Even by the most sophisticated, intelligent minds of the world are working on these mysteries of the universe. And some interesting minds have also reflected on the mystery of reality much before the material sciences came up. They think all this is actually imagined in one absolute reality called the Atma. And that Atma is appearing like this. Maybe they were not very sophisticated, didn't have too much of mathematics to prove what they were saying, but they had one intuition that this could be true. And there is this German philosopher, young guy, who's a mathematician. His name is Gabriel Marshall or some sort, Gabriel. I'll tell you the name. And he is a new realist. So he uses his logic to say that, yeah, all this is true, but if you go deeper, you cannot prove that all this exists. Yeah, at a micro level, you can talk about it, but at a universal level, if you go in a super sophisticated way, you will not be able to prove anything. That is the argument. He's a new realist. It's very interesting. Comes very close to much of the discussion we're having in different perspectives. Now, having said this, what he had said that this yoga yuktatma or the samadarshin, either he's a jnana sadhaka or he's a yoga sadhaka. Then there was this debate whether these are two different independent strategies of self-realization, or these both strategies are kind of intertwined or interdependent. Dhanapadi argues that these strategies do not have to be seen as too compartmentalized, and they are not at all related to each other. They supplement each other. You have to have some jnana even to have a good practice of yoga, and you must have qualified yourself with a few tricks in yogic sciences to be able to sit and study and have the stability of attention to apply your mind and to analyze and meditate on the self. Therefore, yoga is also an enabler of good jnana sadhana. Similarly, jnana sadhana of certain amount, certain degree, is also a supplement, is a kind of a building block for yogic practices. That's a neutral, eclectic point, and we didn't fight with it. Now the next sloka is evam suddham tvam padartham nirupya suddham tat padartham nirupayati. That is how our great mentor, Madhusudan Acharya, talks about our this next verse. He's saying the verse runs like this: Yo mang pasyati sarvatra, sarvam cha mai pasyati. Yo means he, yah, mam, me, pasyati. The one who sees me sarvatra, everywhere. The one who sees me everywhere, sarvam cha mai pasyati, and sees everything in me. Okay? It's a beautiful sentence. Who sees me everywhere and sees everything that is apparent in me. Tasyaham na pranashyami. I do not vanish for him. I am always there for him in a very intimate way. I do not appear as an external object for me, which means he is kind of in intimate relationship with me, so he will never miss out on me. Tasya ham na pranashyami. It's like you have a golden necklace on your neck, and it's quite possible that you might miss it somewhere. You have a beautiful pen. You remember your school days, you had your favorite pen or pencil. It's quite possible that one fine morning on the examination day, you have misplaced it and you get angry with everyone. Where is my pen? Right? Now, he is saying you will never have that problem. The sadhaka, the aspirant, will never have that problem. Tasyaham na pranashyami. I shall never ever be away from that person. In what sense? Because God is not a physical being. I shall never ever be an object of indirect or poroksha jnana. That means he will always have a direct perception of me in his consciousness. I shall ever be present there. Not in the form of Lord Krishna or Ram or Lord Jesus or Allah, whatever you name you take. Not in that sense. But as someone, as a reality which is non-different from his own being. Second, Sacha me na pranashyati, and he shall not ever vanish from my consciousness. Is God telling this as an individual? We have to make sense of it. What here he's saying is that the divine reality or the substratum, which we are not able to see, notice, take note of, or remember or discuss in simple language with the help of our senses, the five senses we have. We are not able to see that reality which is available to only Sukshmadarshis. And how those whose consciousness and attention has been sharpened, whose minds are transparent and pure, and who have done enough sadhana that they are able to dwell on that subject matter is no different from their own self. It's a complicated thing. It's like if I ask you, okay, now lift yourself, and you shall ask me, how do I lift yourself, lift myself? Is there a kind of a pulley or a crane? How do I get lifted? And I tell you that you have to lift yourself. I said, really, then how does it work? By working it. These are all tautological, isn't it? But in Vedanta, these are the only ways we talk about it. Because there is that ultimate consciousness where we as individuals and the reality which holds us and surrounds us and the process of our connecting with it becomes one unified field of consciousness. That is what Vedanta says. It's not that there is no knowledge, there is no knower, and there is no known, but all three of them lose their individual identities. There is a pan field of consciousness. There's pan consciousness. It pervades everything. And that is what you identify with, and you become that. And there is loss of fear, because you will have some fear when you are limited, or there is a second person who can harm you. When you know you are everything, you are like the king, you are like the emperor who owns over this whole universe, not just this solar system or the earth or anything, but the whole universe, because there's nothing beyond your consciousness. Because you have become that unified field of consciousness yourself through deeper meditation and analysis. That is how we can make sense of it. But let's look at how, uh, first we'll look at how uh, our friend, I've changed the YouTube thing. I hope it's going. I'm going to the Madhusudan, sorry, Shankaracharya now. And then we will look at Madhusudana. So this 30th one, the first thing he is saying, Shankaracharya, and while explaining this 30th sloka, Yo mang pasyati Vasudevam. Mam means who? Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the son of Vasudeva. That is one grammatical way of making sense of it. But Vasudeva is constructed out of the dhatu Vishu Pravashani. It's Sarva Vyapi. There's no reality where Vasudeva isn't there. Yo mang pasyati Vasudevam. Sarvasya Atmanam. I'm the soul of everything. In what sense I am the soul of everything? Am I like the diamond on a ring? Am I like the locket on a chain? No, I am not a specific part of a large object. No, I'm not like this. Am I like the capital of a country or the city center of a big city? No, not like that. Am I like the head of a human being? No, I'm everywhere. But I am the essential reality which holds this whole external manifest reality that you see and talk about. That's what the text says. Sarvatra, sarveshu bhuteshu. And he sees me where? I am the soul of everything. Where does he see me? And the soul is not referring to a physical object or a quality. This is the easiness, the presence, which is all pervading. Sarvatra, sarveshu bhuteshu, sarvam cha brahmadi bhutajatam mai sarvatmani pashyati. He sees this substratum, this subtle truth and reality which pervades all of physical reality that you can talk about or imagine. I pervade that. Whenever he looks at a car or a house or a tree or a river or a crowd or a war, what does he see? He sees that divine consciousness, which is permeating everything and appearing as mutually contradictory presences of different human beings, different countries, different political parties. These are contradictory appearances of one unified reality. He takes note of it. And then, Brahmadi Bhuta Jatam Mai Sarvatmani Pashyati. And then whenever he looks at all of them, he doesn't get lost in them as multiples. He recognizes that all these multiple facts and figures about reality, qualities and other things, are in fact imagined. They are all established in one unified truth. Call it God, call it Vasudeva, call it Brahman, call it Atma. Whatever suits you, whatever you like, you call it Jesus or Buddha, whatever you like, you use word of your choice. The truth shall not alter too much. It will remain what it is, except for the linguistic problems that will impose in the way we make sense of it. Tasya evam atmeka atmekatvadarshinaha. And that fellow who is able to see that there is only one Atma. Atma is not what is here. Where is your Atma, a child? If you ask any Christian child who have talked to a few children of the missionaries of the Friends Society, if you ask any of those babies, very cute ones, so they'll be giving you those small pamphlets on second coming of Jesus or the nature of heaven with beautiful pictures and cartoons and stuff like that. If you ask those children, Where is the Lord? They immediately touch their heart and they say, He's here. It's a beautiful training for the children because they feel good about that religious experience. Now, similarly, when I say soul, where is it? The child will say, It's here. Where is your Narayan Purush? Where is God in you? And Hindus will say, It's here. That's what we do. But Vedanta isn't saying that. It's not a location in our physical body. This is non local reality. It doesn't have a location, it's all pervading. And it has no time span. It was always there, it shall always be there. And there is no second thing. It's the only thing there all around. And the one who knows this ekatva, the tattva, the one who is able to see this oneness, despite the multiple occurrences of persons and countries and blah blah blah, that fellow what happens? Darsinaha aham ishvaro na pranashyami. I am the Lord, I shall never vanish. Na parokshatam gamishyami. I shall not be somebody who is different from him. What is porokshata? When you say this is a pencil and it's different from you, right? It's different from you. And but when you say aham brahmasmi, you are not saying I am George, and George is another person, and you are dressing up like him and you're saying I am George. It's not in that sense. It's like you are George and you're saying I am George. So that George word has no significance except your presence. You're saying I am George. So there's nothing like it's, there is like some Georgeness, and you are a human being, and there is something called a political Georgeness, and you are establishing a kind of connectivity. Not in that sense. You're saying you are George, and that George human being is same as you. In that sense, he's saying that aham na pranashyami parokshatam gamishyami. Such a me na pranashyati, and the same person also, such a me, for me, na pranashyati, he also doesn't vanish. He also doesn't become someone else for me. Such a vidwan mama basudevasya na pranashyati. I never lose him. That is in a bhakti tradition, they will say. He looks after me and I look after him. In a Bhakti dualist tradition, this verse will mean this. He always loves me, and it's never there is a time where I am not there available to help him. And there shall never be a time when he is not there for me. It's a beautiful, sweet way to make sense of it in a bhakti way. But in a Vedantic way, what exactly it means is that this person, because he's wise, he always is aware that we two are not different. And therefore, I cannot vanish away from him. I cannot be different for him from him. And he cannot be different from me for me. He's always present for me and he's always same as me. Okay? Na pranashyati. And then Atmana, then what he says, Sacha vidvan mama vasudevasya na pranashyati na parokya bhavati tasya cha mama cha ekatmakatvat, because he and me, Jiva and Brahman, Bhakta and Bhagavan, ekatmakatvat, we are part of the names for one fundamental reality. Ishvara is Karana Upadhigata, Jiva is Karya Upadhigata. Is a product, that is a name given to a product. The same water, one appears as ice cream, the other one appears as a lake. Isn't it same water? You can say that this ice cream is made of lake water or ocean water. But ocean and the ice cream is karyopadhigata. It's a product. The ocean isn't a product. It's a karanopadhi. It's the causal reality of ice creams, of rivers, of lakes. Okay, in that sense. Swatma, and then what is the bhavati? Tasya mamacha ekatmatvat swatmahi nama atmana priya eva bhavati yasmacha aham eva sarvatmekatvadarsi iti etat purva slokartham samyak darsanam anudya tatphalam moksha avidhiyate. And then in the next sloka he's saying a person, first thing he's saying, earlier he's saying either he has to be a Samadarshi or a Yoga Yuktatma. He has already discussed a lot, Bhagavan. to how to sort of sharpen your mind, your consciousness, stabilize your attention, focus your attention on the supreme reality of the divinity. And you are not secluded, isolated from that divinity. Our fears, our anxieties, our loneliness emerges out of a faulty understanding that we are seeking the divine, that we are different from the divine, that we are ignorant. These are fine at a phenomenal level. But when we have that deeper realization, yes, it's because of the ignorance. The crystal looks red because of sitting on the red sari. Similarly, because of my body, my job, my responsibilities, my mind behaves like this. Fundamental truth is my consciousness is actually a tiny aspect of that huge reality. And it's no different because it's not a physical thing that it is a small part of a big reality. It's not a physical thing. The body is physical, the consciousness is not. And therefore, the presence that I have and the presence that I'm talking about when I talk about God is just one reality. That is how we stop here. And then we go back to the analysis which is there by Madhusudana Saraswati, because he sort of tries to do a beautiful thing here. Yo mang pasyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pasyati tasyaham na pranashyami sa cha me na pranasyati. Yo yogi mam ishwaram, that yogi, that sadhaka, that samadarshi who sees me, mam, mujhe, me, the Ishwara, tat padartham asesa prapancha karana maya upadhikam. What is asesa prapancha? We have to break each word because these are so beautiful, because he's sort of combining a lot of ideas in a single sentence. That is the beauty of Madhusudana Saraswati. There is Tvam Padartha, there is Tat Padartha. Tat Padartha sort of refers to that unified, grand, vast, nameless reality called the Atma or the Brahman. And we have the Tvam Padartha, which is individual realities, okay, individual things. What is saying? Mam Ishwaram. And who is that Ishwara? This Ishwara is a name. It is a crown which Brahman is wearing and appearing as Ishwara. Karana upadhibhuta satya, in that sense. So tat padartham asesa prapancha karanam. This prapancha, this physical material reality, is it limited? No. We see a certain part of it. We see a limited aspect of it, but it's endless. It can exist. I mean, we know very little about the whole galaxy. We're talking about galaxies. We think that we know very little about it. It's always expanding. We don't know much about it. And similarly, the asesa prapancha, and there is this causal aspect. I am the cause. Karana maya upadhikam. And what is the cause? How does that happen? Fundamentally, none of this is real. There is something called maya, that magical power through which this one appears as many. That is the upadhi, that is the title. What is upadhi? A certain superimposition. This upadhikam, upadhi vivekena, and then he doesn't confuse this physical realities as me. No, 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 he doesn't do that. He's much sharper than me, much sharper than the stupid one who will talk like this. This Tattva Yogi, this Tattva Darshi, or this Yoga Yuktatma, what he does, he is able to see me everywhere. That fundamental reality, which is without a name and form, is appearing with names and forms as a pen, as a pencil, as a man, as a woman, as a baby, as an old person. That same fundamental reality. So this Ishvara is asesa prapancha karana upadhikam. He is the guy who's wearing that magic crown. Then he becomes Ishvara. He creates this whole universe. And he, same way, once he wears the cap of magic, he can create so many illusory things, and they have come out of him, and he sort of appears there. They all carry his signature, and he is able to see that signature of the divine everywhere. He's seeing that signature with his brilliant eyes, his insightful eyes, through his intuition. He sees the signature of the divine presence of the absolute truth everywhere. That absolute truth is Avinashvara, changeless. What he sees are changing all the time. It's very complicated, but a beautiful truth. Sarvatra prapanche sadrupena spurana rupena cha anushutam. And how that one can be many, he's saying that as spurana, is illumination, which makes everything appear as to appear the way it does. Okay, and sadrupena. What is sadrupena? Ghato asti, pato asti, Ghatasan, Patasan, whatever you use. There is a pen, there is a book. What is common to all of them? There is a pen, is. A pen is there, a book is there is a talk, there are people joining in a virtual conference or conversation. You will always find that there is this intransitive, is or are, that isness, that presence. That what Sadrupa, which is common to everything, that is true, not the other things. The pot may break, the easiness cannot break. That easiness is absolute, it's there. That sense is explaining it, that anishutam, and it's like a thread, holding together many flowers in a garland. This pure consciousness is all pervading, is stitching together. This is an imagination, it's like a metaphor, stitching together this multiplicity of objects and realities. Sarva upadhi vinirmuktam, but that isness, that sadrupa, that spuranurupa, that sarva upadhi vinirmuktam, paramartha satyam ananda dhanam, anantam pashyati. So what he's saying is that there are, like for example, it's like this. Okay, let's give an example which makes immediate sense to us. Let's imagine that you know your mom, all of us know our mothers very well. And all our moms, we remember them for some special dishes which they cook in a certain way when we were children, right? So you go to a party where your mother is also one of the organizers, and there are different recipes which are prepared, and we all kids go. When we taste different kinds of cakes or paisams, and whatever, and sweet meat and all kinds of desserts we taste, we very quickly see from the very smell, there is nothing to tell you which your mother has cooked. But as a child, once you taste, this is my mom's, and you laugh and you tell it to a friend. This must be my mom. This must be my mom. It just comes naturally to you. 5, 6 items, nothing is there. There's no way you can actually establish whether your mother isn't even there. It's a birthday party of children. But the children know this is cooked by their mom. They immediately know. And they say, these 6 dishes must have been cooked by my mother. Same way, this Yoga Yuktatma, he looks at this recipe of the samsara and quickly figures out that his mother, the divine mother, the Prakriti, and whose Prakriti is part of the Purusha, and then this Maya Upadhikam, Asesa Karana, this whole thing, Asesa Prapancha Karana Upadhikam, that Ishvara's hand, he's the guy, he can see his hand or her hand everywhere. Everywhere, wherever he looks at it, he knows, yeah, he's doing it. Not as an active agent, not as the physical mother. No, nothing like that. God doesn't create anything doing any effort the way we read it in Bible or anything. He just does a sankalpa. So, it's like this in Vedas. He just wanted. That's it. It happened. Why it's described like this? Because for these school of thoughts, nothing has been physically created. They just appeared because of the wish of the divine absolute. And therefore, the Upanishads say that these appearances not to be taken too seriously. Okay? So, Paramartha Satyam Ananda Dhanam Anantam Pashyati. He sees this Satya everywhere, like a thread, okay, holding the whole garland. Yoga Jena, how does he see it? Through his naked eyes? He cannot see that through naked eyes. How can he see it? There are 2 techniques. He has to be a Samadarshi or he has to be Yoga Yuktatma. He has to do Nirodha Samadhi. He has to sharpen his intellect and sit for long hours. When he has stopped all other objects from disturbing him. His attention is stabilized. It's completely closed from all sides. Then he sees that truth. That's why the word is yoga jena, yoga ja pratyakshena. That yogi, because he's a yogi, he has the sixth sense, it's intuitive. It's not like looking at a pen or a pencil or watching a film. No, it doesn't happen like that. Pratyakshena aparokshi karoti. He has that direct perception of it, not the way we watch a film or a television show, but he experiences it within the universe of his consciousness as non-different from his consciousness. It sounds very cryptic, but we meditate on it, we get a handle to make sense of it. Tatha sarvam cha prapancha jatam mayaya. Then he looks at this whole universe. Just imagine that he sits in meditation now. He goes out for a picnic, he sees everything, then he comes back, then he sits in meditation. What did I see today? Then what is he talking to himself about? He's saying, Sarvam cha prapancha jatam. All the people I met today, all the trees I counted, or the leaves I saw, the fragrances I smelled, or the tasty, glass of water that I drank, sweet glass of water. Whatever I have tasted, whatever I have seen, whatever I have experienced, all these are born out of Maya Aropitam. They are created by Maya and Maya Aropita. That means what? Like a crystal assumes different colors depending on the color of the sari because it has no color of its own. This Brahman, this Atma Vastu, Maya Aropitam, Mai Aropitam, Maya Aropitam. Mai means in me. Bhagavan is saying it's all superimposed on me the way the snake is superimposed on the rope. There's no snake. This appearance of a snake is superimposed on something different because of lack of enough light or because of fear of snake, which is predominant in the mind, whichever, these are all ajnana. And then the mind sort of tends to see these eyes are there, the body is fit, the mind is fit, he's not drunk, he's not traumatized, nothing. But it appears like a snake and he runs away. And then he returns when somebody puts the lights on and he's told, no, no, it's a rope, don't get scared. Then he comes back, same way. Prapancha jatam mayaya, with the help of Maya, these are projections. And mai aropitam, mai, Ishware, these are all superimposed on me because the fundamental reality is me only. Mad Vinnataya. What is Aropita? These houses and cars and whatever we are talking about, they are not Vasudeva. We don't recognize them as Vasudeva. And Bhagavan is saying that you see like that, they are all superimposed on one fundamental reality, which is me, and they are perceived and talked about bhinnataya as if they are different. Mrushatvena eva pasyati. But the wise guy also talks to people, also drives in a car, flies in an aircraft, and behaves nicely with people and files his IT returns. But does he treat them as serious matter to take note of? No. He says, Mrishatvena. Yeah, this is a phenomenal reality. I'm around and I have to honor the terms and conditions of my being a civilized being in society, and I shall abide by what are laws and regulations there. But I shall not take it too seriously because I know fundamentally they do not exist. They are not fundamentally there. But as a phenomenal aspect of this reality, they exist. And I shall abide by everything, the laws, regulations, do's and don'ts. Yes, I would. But I shall not take them too seriously. I know what is the truth. Okay? So Mrushatvena eva pasyati, he sees them as false. Tasya evam vivekadarshinaha. And that kind of a person who has this power of discrimination, aham tat padartho, who am I? Bhagavan is talking now. Aham is tat padartha, the jiva is tvam padartha. Bhagavan tells, the master tells the Shishya, Tat Tvam Asi, you are that, or that is you. Where is God? God is you. In what sense? Not as a divine celestial being and you are a human being and you are equivalent. No, not in that sense. The fundamental consciousness, which assumes the name of Ishvara or a God, or a woman or a man, or you, the divine aspirant, you are all one as different names and forms imposed on one unified consciousness. In that sense, Tat Padartho Bhagavan na pranashyami. I also shall never ever become distant to him as if I'm a different object. Why? Because he is seeing me as same as him. How can I ditch him? I also shall ever remain as what he thinks he is. The thing is very cryptic. What he's saying is that for that fellow, we shall never see God as external to his consciousness, who can be seen as a poroksha jnaya pradartha, the way a pen or a pencil or a river or a tree that he talks about, he shall never ever look at God like that, because his very existence, his very presence, his manifestation is everything one integral aspect of that unified reality called Brahman when it is looked at from God's point of view, and looked at Sansara when it is looked at by the person, the individual jiva. Okay, Pranashyami Ishwaraha Kassin Mad Vinno Asti Iti. And then that fellow, Ishwara, and he's different from me. Paroksha Jnana Visai Na Bhavami. I shall never ever become an object of his knowledge, as if he's dealing with an external reality. I shall never become external to his consciousness. Kintu Yogaja Aporoksha Jnana Vishayo Bhavami. But I shall ever remain. What is the Vishaya? Actually, Bhagavan will never appear as Vishaya here. Vishaya, Vishayi, that relationship will not there in the Vedantic way, because Vishayi, Vishayi, that is a, there is a duality, the knower and the known. No, not in that sense. But he's saying, in a certain sense, if there is a, just for the sake of conversation, if I can say the object of knowing, in that sense, that I shall be the object of knowing when the process of knowing is nirudha samadhi, that direct perception in the heart of his own consciousness, where he has closed all chitta vrittis. That means I cannot be an external object of perception, because he has closed his mind from everywhere, and I blossom in his consciousness as non-different from him. So yogaja aporoksha jnana vishayo bhavami. Okay, then he's saying yadyapi वाक्यज अपरोक्ष ज्ञान विषयत्वं त्वपदार्थ अभेदेन eva. Even though the Sritis and other things are generally saying that whenever you say tattvam asi, so this aporoksha jnana visaya is always to start with the tvam padartha. The jiva has to meditate doing the sodhana of the tvam padartha, that this tvam padartha is not different from that universal consciousness called the tat padartha or the Ishvara. Though so, even then, tathapi, kevalasyapi, kevala means tat padarthasyapi, even of the tat padartha, of the Atma, of the Bhagavan, whatever word you use, tat padarthasya, yogaja aporoksha jnana visayatvam upapadyate eva. So you can also say that it's possible that, because you see, it's like you can go from this way or that way. One is that you start meditating on your own consciousness and remove all the names and forms. You drop them one by one. What remains is pure consciousness. And then, because you stop the manifesting modification of the mental processes and close them, shut them down, then what remains? That pure consciousness. And the self blossoms there. The consciousness blossoms. Like we talk about a pot, you have gold or sand or whatever it's filled with, you remove everything. What remains? Pure space. But when it is full of sand or water, you see sand and water, you don't see space. Similarly, when the mind has a bunch of thoughts, by mind you refer to the thoughts. When you remove all the thoughts, the purity of the consciousness becomes self evident. In that way, he's saying, same way, what you can start this way, from bottom up, or from the gross to the subtle. Or you can say that by meditating at that deeper state, I can also argue that the tat padartha is becoming the object of my meditation. In what sense? It is the fruit of my knowledge. I'm becoming aware of that tat padartha, and therefore I can also say, not in a perfect way, but I can also claim that I am being aware of that tat padartha. Aham Brahmasmi is fine, but I can also say that I am meditating on the tat padartha. That is what the argument is making. Evam yogajena pratyakshena, and by this yogaja pratyaksha, through the process of yogic meditation, mam oporokhi kurban, by making me the object of his direct perception, direct knowledge, where he is not looking at me as an external being, as an external reality, but as verily his own consciousness, not the that broken consciousness of jivas. These are all parichinna chittas. No, not in that sense. It has been purified enough. It has been shut down from all sides, so it's not connected with any external objects. What remains inside only reflects the pure, unified, vast, unlimited truth of existence. In that sense, yoga jena pratyakshena mam apurokhi kurban sa cha me na pranashyati parokyo na bhavati. Once he is able to reach that state where he is able to experience me, for me, he shall never be an external object. That means what? I shall ever remain his consciousness. Broadly, what is hinted is that God is saying this ultimate truth about the divine presence of mind, which you are not able to recognize if you reach that higher level of consciousness through meditation, through analytical practices, through Vedanta Chintana, you shall never ever be afraid again, because I shall never ditch you, and you shall also never be able to live without me, because you know you and me are but one unified reality. What a beautiful thing that is. Then all loneliness gone, all fears gone, no weeping, no breaking of coconuts, because these things will drop down. And the bhakti, because that is a beautiful thing, where the bhakta itself, it sort of gets dissolved in the Bhagavan. In certain ways, some people talk about it like that. So bhavati, then na bhavati. Swa atma hi mama cha vidwan ati priyatvat. And that vidwan is such a mama sa vidwan ati priyatvat. सर्वदा मत अपरोक्ष ज्ञान गोचर भवति ये यथा माम प्रपद्यन्ते तां तथैव भजाम्यहम इति उक्तेः. And Bhagavan has already mentioned in the verse number 11 in the chapter 4, whosoever loves me in whichever way, I shall always stand by him in that way. Now, if you see me as no different, if God is saying, if you see me as no different from you and you as no different from me, I have no option but to be always in your consciousness. If you call me as your dad, I'm going to be there as your dad. If you call me as your brother, I'm going to be there as your brother. If you call me as your lover, I'm going to be there as your lover. But if you are saying that you and me are just one unified consciousness with names and forms we impose on it during the Dutthana Dasa, where our minds are kind of distracted. Even then, he will explain in the next verse that whatever you do, once you have reached this level, this is Jivan Mukti Avastha, you are perennially liberated, because you have realized that you are no different and you are not limited, because you are no different from the divine reality called God. You are not limited and you cannot be limited. So Bhagavan kind of reassures in the Madhusudan Tika, he quotes that 11th verse of the chapter 4. Tatheva sarasayas saryasastam bhishma dhyanasya. Sarasayasta, Bhishma was lying on that bed of arrows. Dhyanasya, Bhishma dhyanasya yudhishtiram prati bhagavat uktehe. And he has mentioned that in the Sarasajya, he wanted to know what it is. There is a stotra called, what is it, Bhismastavaraja. It's a beautiful thing. So people chant Bhagavad Gita one chapter in the morning and do Bhismastavaraja in the evening before bed. Abhidvangstu swatmanam api santam bhagavantam na pasyati. The guy who is a fool, who is an idiot, not in a bad sense, okay? So, Abhidvangstu swatman api. He doesn't even recognize himself. He doesn't recognize God. What does that mean? God is no different from his own self. Not self as a body, not self as a house and a car, a name and a form. God is his pure consciousness. And if you don't recognize God, what are you doing? You're actually not recognizing yourself. So Swami Vivekananda, while talking about Nastika, he critically said Nastika is one who doesn't believe in himself. People thought that is a very interesting rational articulation, but he was just giving a deep Vedantic secret away so that people didn't understand it. What he was trying to say is that you don't have to believe in God, but do you believe in yourself? But as per Vedanta, you and God are not two different things. So if you believe in yourself and if you analyze, you shall be forced to recognize that you and the supreme divine reality, without a name and form, we both are one and the same. And therefore, if you believe in yourself, it will be very easy for you to recognize this truth that all these multiples are in fact reflections, expressions, manifestations, and projections of one unified, nameless, formless reality called the Brahman or the Atma. These words we use for our convenience. These are actually avachya. There's no word to describe it. You cannot hold it in any words. And therefore, what he say, Abhitvang tu swatmano api santam bhagavantam na pasyami. The poor fellow, he is not able to see me because he's avidya, avidwan. He goes to a temple or a mosque or a church and looks for me, how stupid he is. Now, don't get swayed away by this. You have to go to the temple and church and the mosque depending on where you are doing it. These are good. In initial conditions, we are talking about sarva karma sannyasis who have given their lives. And at these levels of deeper meditations, what the text says is you don't have to go anywhere anymore. There's an end to the journey, and the journey ends with you realizing your own consciousness to be the final truth. Ato Bhagavan Pasyan api na pasyati ato, and that particular avidwan, even though he sees himself, he knows that he exists, but he doesn't see that it's an expression of that divine reality. Enam aviditum na bhunakti, and this particular kind of idiots and fools, and because there is no wisdom and there is no self-realization, the absolute, the divine, doesn't take care of them. Because just imagine, it's very simple. It's not that God is being selfish or jealous that you follow me, otherwise I'm not going to take care of you. Not like that. Let me give a very rational example. Imagine that you have a check, and this traveler's check you are carrying, but you have forgotten about this traveler's check, and you are in a different country. You have your debit card or credit card, whatever. You have some cash, some checks you're carrying, you've exhausted, you have forgotten that you have a separate traveler's check in another part of the purse. You are not aware of it, and you run out of money. Your credit card, for some reason, is not functioning. You are feeling desperate. Will you be finding this check of any help until and unless you recognize its presence in the purse? No. This check cannot help. Is this check being jealous and selfish? No. You have to pick it up and go to the bank or anywhere you exchange money or go to Western Union or whatever. Okay, you have to go to one of these places and show that traveler's check and you sign it. They'll give you cash. You're not finding it. Then you're saying this traveler's checks company who issued the check are very selfish and nefarious elements. What is their fault? They gave you the check. You didn't use it because you haven't been able to recognize or remember that it exists with you. So the text says that what? Enam avidito na bhunakti. The Lord doesn't save them. In what sense? This truth doesn't benefit them. This truth doesn't benefit them because they are not aware of it. So they don't benefit. And they cry and they go to the tantrics. They go to some fake gurus who tell all kinds of cock and bull stories. They're happy with all that because they don't recognize that deeper secret. The traveler's check is very much in their purse. They're trying to borrow money and calling up mom and dad and friends. Can you wire me some money? I'm in trouble. They're carrying a lot of money. It's in a small piece of paper inside that purse, but they don't recognize it. That's what Bhagavan says, Enam avidito na bhunakti iti shrutihi. Vidvangstu sadaiva sannihito bhagavato anugraha bhajanam ityarthaha. And then the person who is aware of his traveler's check, how does he look? He looks always smiling, happy. He knows I have this much money in this purse, and there's another traveler's check in my bag, and I can encash it anytime. And he may not purchase anything, but he has a soothing confidence about his traveler's check, which is in his possession. He knows where it is, and he's not scared of it. So that is how it benefits. So it's not blind faith. The central message of this is that blind faith, some people say that it gives you some confidence, that's fine. But ultimately, what is liberating is awareness and understanding of what the truth is. And that's how the 30th sloka ends. And we'll be doing the ucharanam of the next sloka, but we'll do the meaning tomorrow. एवं त्वं पदार्थ तत्पदार्थं च शुद्धं निरूप्य तत्त्वमसि इति वाक्यार्थं निरूपयति. So in one sloka he mentioned about the tvam padartha first, that 29th verse. 30th he mentioned about the tat padartha. Now we will do samanvaya. And certain other commentators are saying this is the phala of this particular tattva darsitva, or that particular quality or that wisdom that you have. What is the benefit? सर्वभूतस्थित यो मां भजत्येकत्वमास्थितः सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि स योगी मयि वर्तते. The guy who is meditating like this, established in ekatva, all the time aware of this unified reality of his existence and the existence, the sole existence of the divine is one and the same thing, even though he may be anywhere. He may be doing dharma karya, he may be doing this, he may be doing that. But all the time, so yogi, he's always connected with me. Mai vartate, he's always in me. It's like a boy who is very obedient of his mother. He may go to a picnic party, he may go to any kind of party or this and that, but he doesn't do anything which his parents have asked him not to do. He's very loyal to his parents, so he'll go everywhere, do everything. He's a very cunning fellow. He goes back home before 9, doesn't upset anyone, but he slips out of the crowds. He goes everywhere. He slips out of places, goes back home. This guy, this scholarly devotee of Bhagavan is like that, who is ever loyal to the truth. This loyalty is not blind faith. This loyalty is backed by wisdom and understanding and serious yoga. And therefore, he's a seasoned practitioner of the yogic science and also Vedanta, and all the time benefiting from it. He's Jivana Mukta. And there are some beautiful sentences. We'll take that up tomorrow, and take care till then. So I'll be stopping the YouTube, and any questions you can ask, or we'll do this Antima class.